Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Funk Chronicles. I'm your host, Dr. Turk Logan, from Logan Communications and the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center. And with me today, it's always fun to talk to musicians. Right. It's always fun because we always have a lot to talk about. I'm going to let you brothers introduce yourselves.
My name is Eddie Fluellen.
Okay, Eddie?
My name is Lannis Hughes.
Lannis and Eddie. Lannis, you were with Rick James, the drummer, and Eddie, you were with Switch.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about Switch and some of where'd the name Switch come from?
The fact that every member played more than one instrument.
Okay.
So during our stage performance, we would literally switch from one instrument to the other. I played keyboards and trombone.
That was interesting.
I would jump from keyboards to the horn section and play trombone, and it would go on like that with the rest of the band.
Okay. How long was Switch together?
Switch is still together.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yep,
Performing currently?
Yes. Yes.
And in the what members are from Dayton, Ohio? I mean, from Columbus, Ohio.
Actually, let's see. There are two of us from Akron, Ohio.
Akron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Philip and I are from Akron, Ohio. Jody Sims, the drummer, the original drummer, he's from Steubenville, Ohio.
Okay. So Ohio has a connection there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What about the DeBarge brothers? How do they fit into this whole thing?
They're from Grand Rapids, and so, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and so is Gregory Williams, who was the leader of the band.
Okay.
And what happened, it was actually the coming together of two local bands. Philip and I, being from Akron, playing with a local band called the Raw Soul Review.
Raw Soul Review.
And Bobby, Tommy, Gregory, and Jody had played with a group from Grand Rapids called White Heat.
Okay.
And Greg had this idea of putting this band together. It was supposed to be a horn-based band, and he came and presented the idea to us, and we were on board with it, and that was the rest, as they say, is history. Something
that's unique with Switch that was also unique with the Ohio Players, where you had men with falsetto voices singing very high notes and whatnot. How did you guys come about doing that?
It's funny. Bobby he just had this voice. I remember when I first met Bobby. I mean, we were in Hollywood and we're just walking and talking, and you know, I'm like just amazed with that voice. Bobby was one who didn't have to work. I mean, he just opened his mouth and that voice just came out. Okay. And I remember his brother L. Well, as a matter of fact, starting from that, Bobby would talk about, you know, he's nothing compared to his brother L. And I'm like, nobody can be better than this voice, until we heard from L. But L would say about Bobby that, you know, where Bobby would just open his mouth and sing, L would have to work at it.
Such a gift.
Right. But Bobby just had that natural gift to do it.
That's excellent.
You know?
I mean,
and they all did, but you know.
I clearly remember. Tell me about some of the big hits that you guys had.
There'll Never Be was our first big hit. On that same album was I Want to Be Closer, that featured Bobby and Philip Ingram, or Bobby DeBarge and Philip Ingram. And then our follow-up hit on Switch 2 was I Call Your Name.
And Philip Ingram is one of the Ingram brothers?
The younger brother of James.
Right,
yes.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, and so anything new coming down the pike since you guys are still performing? Or
we are working on that. We're working on some new things, and we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Man, I got a story to tell you, man.
Okay. I'm all ears.
The first story was Rick, when you guys were out on the road, his best friend was a magician.
Right.
Lived in Dayton, Ohio, and was getting married at the Dayton Mall. Okay. And Rick was going to be the best man. So Rick calls me and says, I want you there. I'm like, all right. So we meet up at the Dayton Mall, and the way everything was going to work was that on stage in the center of the Dayton Mall, you know what malls look like, they're busy with the plants and everything.
Right.
The magician and his wife and Rick James, and then after they do the nuptials, then the magician and his wife are going to disappear and Rick was going to perform. They got to the point of doing the nuptials and disappearing, and the smoke came up and everything, but before Rick performed, they did not compensate for the number of kids that were coming in that place. And there must have been 5,000 people out there.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was chaos. I was in the manager's office, kind of it was chaos out there, man. I mean, it wasn't anybody's fault, but it was just those kids were just completely out of control. The next time, I always admired Rick and you guys because, you know, you were so talented and seeing you had so much energy, and he had so much energy on the road. One time we were together after a concert. It was me and him and three of the most beautiful women. They might have been backup singers. And we're in the hotel suite, and we're sitting on the floor, and we got a bottle there. And he says, Turk, watch this. And I said, what? He said, you, and you come and go with me. I said, you're not going to leave one? He said, nope. He got up all three of them left me sitting on the floor. And that's all I could do was just bust out laughing, man. So I said, ain't nobody going to believe this. He left me
Just
sitting on the
walked
floor. Just walked away like nothing ever happened, you know. But I always loved him and admired him because, again, he was so talented, and I enjoyed his energy and whatnot.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience with Rick.
Great. Excellent. There's so many things that.
When did you join the band?
I joined the band. Really, I first started playing behind Rick James was in '77.
Okay.
He had a single out called "Get Up and Dance" at the
Okay.
time. He had just came in from Toronto area,
Right.
and he relocated to Buffalo.
Okay.
And the band I was playing with at the time, we were backing him. We did a few shows around the Buffalo area. So he got together and he did some demos and took it to Motown. And Berry Gordy was interested in his material and asked him to redo more. So he did that, and he got his first album out, Come Get It. It was a smash. But at that time, Rick didn't have a band. He just used musicians and went in the studio. He wrote everything and put it out there.
Right.
This time, he needed a band.
Right.
And
on the road,
at the time, he got a call from Berry Gordy to work with a young lady that was around Motown that had been there a few years, but they couldn't get any material out on her, Tina Marie.
Okay.
So Rick agreed to do some songs to see if it'll work out. So my audition to be a part of the Stone City Band was to record on Tina's demo.
Amazing. That's a heck of an audition right there.
Yes. Berry Gordy said if he loved it, he wanted us to be the band.
So where did the name Stone City Band come from?
Buffalo, the projects.
Okay.
You
Like
know,
so
'cause there
many
was
others.
plenty of projects.
I
in
mean,
every
that was a
city.
combination that was just, that hasn't been matched today to see Rick and Tina on stage, especially singing Fire and Desire. I mean, I own a radio station and I play that just all the time. Whether people want to listen to it or not, I still play it. That's a song.
That's my classic.
That's a song of songs. We are involved here in Dayton, Ohio in the Funk Museum Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center. Something new, something exciting, something that's going to be real big for artists like yourselves to leave your history and your legacies in. There is a major component of education in that. Give me your assessment of how important the education part for our youngsters is.
How much time do we have?
I understand.
I teach piano.
Okay.
And I remember a few years back when they were talking about taking the arts out of the schools. I'm one that had a big problem with that. That's, you know, except for my stepfather starting me on piano, taking me to piano lessons and everything. A lot of that education came from school, you know, going to school and the music classes and the music departments and all that. As far as education, the music education, I think it's extremely important. And I think anybody that gets into music, you have to have that education. No matter where it comes from, whether it comes privately or whether it comes from school or whatever, you have to have that education.
And we're saying that today to these young musicians because so many guys that came out of Dayton, Ohio back in the 70s, the Ohio Players, Roger, Heatwave, Lakeside, all these guys, you know, I lived with them. I lived their experiences. And I'm not a musician. I don't write. I don't read music. I don't sing. Or I do what it is I do. I run my mouth, and that's been part of my success in the business. But it complemented them because I was a DJ, music director, and program director, so I could play their music. Okay. But many of them, like was mentioned earlier, didn't understand the business of show business. And how important, and that's where the education piece comes
Yes.
in. How important is that?
It's very important. You have to learn the business side as well as learning your instrument, because that's what can carry you further. You know, your future depends on that business background. You know, you can play all you want, but to go that extra mile, learn the business, because it's not just glorified just being on stage and have people screaming and hollering at you. Learn the business, because you know that's where you can go into investments, doing videos, promote, you know, and set up your family life.
And that's very important, because as we get older, you know, we may not be able to do what we did 40 years ago
Right.
on stage.
Correct.
But if we have, like you are a piano teacher and still performing, when you decide not to go out on the road anymore, you still have the backup as a piano teacher in your craft. When you as a drummer and a musician, the same thing.
Yes.
What is the Stone City Band doing today?
We're currently in the studio
Okay.
creating new material to put out. That is-
And is it going to be similar to some of the old material, or is it going to be just something different? It's a kind of a new day.
It's going to be a tad of the old material with
Okay.
up-to-date sounds to it.
We gonna hear any funk in there?
Yes, you will.
Okay. Okay.
None but the funk.
Nothing
be
but
right
the funk.
otherwise.
That's
Nothing
it,
but the
yes.
funk. That's right. That's
Pure
right.
funk. It's gonna have you dancing and gonna wear you out like we used to back in the 70s.
Well, that's good. I
Gonna
mean,
do it again.
we need to. So many of us over the last almost 40 years now, when you stop and think about it, have gotten away from what we did, what got us to the party in the first place.
Right.
When and you guys are veteran musicians, so you know the genres change.
Yes.
You know, every 10 years or so, you go from R&B to soul to urban to hip hop to rap to gangster rap, and I don't know where we're going from there, but that's where we are right now.
Right.
But the bottom of what you guys did and what I was involved in 40 years ago is still important. It's still there. You know, still people still listen to it. You know?
Yes.
And it's interesting because when I was teaching at Wilberforce, I test my kids about a little music theory, like you said that you're involved in. And I tell a 18-year-old, say, I'm gonna say you a song. I don't sing. I say, I'm gonna say you a song. And the song is, I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. And they'll think for a second. They'll say, Dr. Logan, that's The Temptations, My Girl. I say, you're right. And they look, think they get an A in class. I said, but you know nothing about that song. I said, you don't know who wrote that song. You don't know who sang that song. You don't know what label that song was on. You just know that you heard that song, and that song's in your subconscious.
That's it.
And so is every rap lyric that you've ever heard, with all them negative lyrics and everything, in your subconscious. You just proved it to me about a song that you know nothing about.
Yes.
I said, all them songs that you walk around and listen to, they're in your subconscious, and they will always be there. So when you're having a bad day, that comes to the foreconscious. When you
Okay.
get cut off in traffic, or you disagree with the professor because you didn't like that C, you thought that C should be a B, you're going to get pissed off about that, and you're going to respond to it. And so that's a lesson that I give our kids about the music business, how the effect the music has, the lyric contents have on minds, you know, especially young minds, because like I said, we're going into 4 decades of this situation. What's your guys' assessment of how the lyrics affect young people?
I think you couldn't have said it better. I mean, it does affect you. It does become a part of your subconscious, and I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, the writing and all that. And that also goes back into as far as like the business, like you said, as far as the business, and that therein lies, I mean, a lot of that is part of that business. You're making a point earlier as far as like how important that business is. And I remember having meetings with Motown and all that, and one of those meetings where it's commonly said, as far as like the music business, it is 90% business 10% music.
That's
There
right.
you go.
You know, and as long as you remember that, and you got to remember that going in, because if you don't, you'll end up on, and I love the show, but you'll end up on those shows where, you know, they talk about people who've lost everything because they didn't know the business,
Right.
you know, or they didn't remember the business.
What's your thinking on it?
Same thing, what he just reiterated.
I got caught by an artist being on the air that I love sincerely. She's deceased now. And what made me start listening instead, I tell people there's a difference, and you guys know this probably better than I do because you experience more. There's a difference between hearing and listening. And
Yes, there is.
there's a
Yes,
difference.
there is.
And I had been listening to Minnie Riperton sing "Come Inside My Love." When it dawned on me what she was talking I mean, I'm on the radio, man, and it just dawned on me like, well, this woman's talking about sex. And I'm like, I've been playing a song for years. And it dawned on me. And you guys are so talented that you could take a lyric and put it in there, slip it in there.
Right.
And that's the talent, that you guys have in your writing or whatnot that we don't have.
Mary Jane.
Yeah,
Mary Jane.
exactly, Mary Jane.
Yes, play on words.
Yeah, play on
Totally.
words. I'm telling you,
There you
man.
go.
Totally.
And of course, it's gotten a little bit more blatant today.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, nothing's left to the imagination.
Yeah, nothing's left to the imagination. And I spent a lot of time with Barry White, who I thought just was a genius in his writing and his music composition and things of this nature. And to listen to him talk on a one-on-one and talk about the music business, you want to listen to what he's saying because he could tell you something. I spent a lot of time with James Brown. And James Brown had a situation which you guys probably have, especially with Rick James, because a lot of stuff that Rick James did, you would think James Brown was out there with some of the performances.
Right.
But in James's rehearsal, when he say, "Hit me," and the drummer wasn't on it, $500 fine right there. I mean, I was there. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it got to be scary.
$500?
$500 when he say, "Hit me," and he
And the
throws
drummer,
it.
and the drummer does it?
And the drummer not on time with that for whatever reason.
That's
That was before Bootsy and them joined the
Right,
James
right,
Brown band.
right.
That's when Maceo and
Right.
Fred Wesley and all them were there. And it was a rarity. Trust me.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
It was a rarity.
500 is a small fortune.
Yeah, it was a rarity.
Right.
And right down in Cincinnati at King Recording, because I had the privilege of going down there and just observing how the band rehearsed, from that perspective. And a lot of people don't get a chance to see what you guys do behind the scenes, especially in your rehearsals and whatnot.
Right.
And sometimes, tell me about some of your rehearsals. I bet that they're very comprehensive.
They were. If you look at like a lot of the Switch videos, I mean, a lot went into that, as I'm sure you can attest to. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into those rehearsals.
Sure.
Because you did want it to be right. You wanted people to come back and see you again.
Right.
And they came back and saw you not only because of the music was so good, but they had something to look forward to as far as the performance itself.
Right.
And back when we were performing, nothing against today's artists, but I mean, we performed. We had to play. It wasn't what I call a circus act like
Right.
today.
Right.
Today everybody's jumping through hoops, fire, and this and that and the other.
Right,
but
right.
where's the actual playing?
Where's
Where's
the
the actual?
musicianship?
Where's the musician?
Yeah.
And but yeah, a lot went into that rehearsal for that reason because because we were playing.
And it's very competitive out on the road, as I'm sure you're aware.
It is.
2 instances, UD Arena, the Stone City Band came in with Rick James after being out on the road with Prince. And Rick was upset about something. I'm sitting backstage on one of the speaker boxes, and Rick comes out of the dressing room, and he raising all kind of cane, and Prince's little self come walking out. And here he comes charging at Prince. And so bodyguards had to put the speaker cases between. I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness, the show hadn't even started. So
Yes.
I don't know what happened in Indianapolis, but it happened again the next year because Roger had more bounce to the ounce out. And the very next year, the same thing happened. Where's that Roger? Roger wasn't going to come out. It was Larry was going to come out. And the two of them got tangled up backstage. And I'm standing there watching these two big guys just, they doing the gorilla with each other. They actually dance. And the bodyguards had to pull them apart because there's so much competition out there with an
Right.
up-and-coming group and a group that's established, correct?
Yes, correct.
I'm sure. Talk about some of the experiences that you had out on the road.
Oh, wow. Well,
that you could talk
it
about?
yeah, see, those are the things. Like certain groups, they used to open up for us on tour, like the Barcades. Larry used to come out with his little python snake,
Right, right.
you know, and he used to flaunt it around on stage, and we'd be standing around in the corner, and he would just come and just toss it, and we standing right there on the side, and everybody is splitting in different directions.
I
you know.
had 2 experiences with those snakes. One, when, see, a lot of people don't know the Ohio Players were the Ohio Untouchables before they were Ohio Players.
I remember.
And I was in a club in a little city outside of Dayton called Germantown, Ohio, at 17, which I had no business being in the club. But the opening act for the Ohio Untouchables was the Powder Puff Review. And these were transvestites that would come out and dance with the snakes and the fly. And I'm sitting at the bar, and there's this beautiful woman with her back to me, hair down, her back. So I said, well, you know, I'm gonna take a shot. I'm gonna buy this woman a drink. I tapped her on her shoulder, and she turned around and turned out to be a man.
Yeah.
And what did he do?
I was so embarrassed. I'm 17 years old, so I don't know what to do. So I buy this person a drink and have a lightweight conversation, and just kind of, since there were snakes in there, I just kind of slithered off the stool and went home. And the second time I was over at Satch's house, and Satch had a python, and he let it loose in there. And it was about 12 feet long, and he let it loose. And he had these big pillows all over the floor, and the snake matched in with the pillows. And people were kind of sitting around sipping and whatnot at his set. And one lady was sitting there, and this snake just kind of raised his head up, just to kind of see what's going on. He's looking her straight in the face, and she's sitting on the floor. You can imagine what happened. Gentlemen, leave us something for the Funk Museum before we close. We're running out of time. Leave us the importance of the Funk Museum and the Music Hall of Fame.
It's extremely important. I think it's a genre that we cannot let disappear. And again, the idea is genius. The idea that it's starting here in Dayton is genius. And it's an idea that needs to be promoted, and people need to know about it.
Yes, it's all about longevity, you know, presentation. As long as they have a center point to come and see, this is the spot. You know, whatever they need to learn, they can learn at the Funk Center.
Let's hope the switch stays successful. May God bless you guys. Let's hope Rick James and the Stone City Band, we keep his memory alive, and you keep on slamming. Good luck to both of you guys.
Thank you for having
Keep
us.
doing what
Appreciate
you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Funk Chronicles with yours truly, Dr. Turk Logan, Logan Communication. We hope you join us next time. Bye-bye.